to my channel and welcome to my review video on episode 4 to episode 6 of the Three Body TV series. As this is a review video that will have a lot of spoilers, so please make sure that you go back and watch episode 3 to episode 6 before you watch this video. Now let's begin. I just want to review the 3 episodes from 3 aspects. The first one, the highlight scenes in the 3 episodes. The second part would be the tempo of the show so far. The third part would be the expansion of the roles from the TV series compared to the original novel. Now the first one, the highlight moment. The first highlight scene I like very much is the part where Wang Miao go to the observatory center to observe the flickering of universe radiation as Shen Yufei promised he will happen. That is a very good scene with a lot of tension, and the TV show find a way to visualize those fluctuation of universe radiation and created this tension at that moment. And later on, as if just seeing some wave on computer monitoring is not good enough, Wang Miao actually go to the observatory center and watch the flickering of universe radiation with a 3K glass. That scene is very big. It's a highlight scene. Not only it is important because that is the breaking point of Wang Miao, who was utterly awed by the phenomenon happening to him that he could not explain, but he had to believe those shooter or the turkey theories that Shen Yufei is, forcing into his mind. The only part, however, I hope the show could do a little bit more is the part where Wang Miao put on the 3K glass and watch the red light flickering everywhere. I think the special effect side, because that is such an important breaking moment for the story and for Wang Miao as a character. So I would expect something bigger, more fabulous, other than, what we see, which is a good scene. But I just think it could be bigger. It could be more, terrifying. I wonder how Netflix would make this part of the show. Would it be even better with obviously better technology and a bigger budget? But I would be happy settling with what we have here right now. And the second highlight moment is that when Wang Miao is literally at the verge of nervous breakdown, Dashi showed up and basically brought him to have breakfast. But actually, they drank very strong Chinese liquor for breakfast. I know in quite some places in China people do that, and that actually makes sense in the story, and that breakfast drink and Dash's talk really brought Wang Miao back from the verge of nervous breakdown, and Wang Miao picked himself up and decided to just face whatever that is and try to crack the frontier of science tricks. Wang Miao definitely, the actor playing Wang Miao, Zhang Lui, definitely did a great job. The different layers of feelings and the fears and emotions, he did it perfectly. And to my mind now, he is Wang Miao himself. And even for Yu Hewei, the actor who played Da Shi, he could just grab those moments and showcase what Da Shi is from the original book and I just love this character, and how Yuhei performed it on the screen. So in later half of episode 5, when they would talk in the Luju restaurant, I was literally crying. It is such a beautiful moment in the show. I think I cried for the first time for the show. Uh, that is just a very touching moment. And when I read the book, even when the dialogues and the scene setups are very similar, but I didn't feel such a emotional power from the book. So I would say very good acting and directing here in this scene. And the third highlight scene in the three episodes are definitely Ye Wenjie's story in later half of episode 6. Finally, the show started to tell Ye Wenjie's story. But I would not quote this highlight moment my favorite, because in the book, that scene should be a struggle session. But because it is such a brutal scene, I suppose if you properly shoot it, there should be blood. There should be very brutal things, and Ye Zhetai probably died either at the struggle session or later after he returned home. So basically, Ye Zhetai, who's Ye Wenjie's father, was beaten to death. This is such an important moment, and the whole world of Ye Wenjie got thrown over. And it's the first step that she turned into somebody else. So it's such a key theme in the book, but in TV show, I would assume because of censorship, so the story are mainly told by Dashi and Wang Miao's dialogue when they read through some historical document, and the show give a little bit a taste on basically Ye Wenjie and Ye Zhetai's dialogue after the struggle session. I would say the actress who played Ye Wenjie, Wang Ziwen, even when she hasn't played much yet, there will be bigger story about Ye Wenjie later. But for now, she just appeared in a couple of flashbacks, and also act a little bit in later half of episode 6. But I already love her, already like her as Ye Wenjie. She is Ye Wenjie herself. I already see very good acting skills from the actress, but we know that there'll be more proportion of her later, and we'll see how good it is. Considering two of the good highlight moments are in episode 5, so this episode is definitely my favorite among all the 6 episodes so far. So now I want to talk about the second review point, the tempo of the show. After the excitement of episode 1 to 3, the show have a very good strong opening, but now it still have a big story to tell. So we noticed the tempo slowed down largely since episode 3. For example, Wang Miao's story, of course, those countdown on the photos and later on the in his eyes are the key step of the whole story, and it got escalated to the universe radiation as if the superior power is just trying to intimidate Wang Miao, to threaten him, asking him to basically yield. I know it's a key part, but when you think about it, it started from episode 2, covered full episode 3 and most of episode 4, and it got escalated finally in episode 5. That's I don't know, more than 3 episodes. 3 episodes is basically a tenth of the full length of the TV show. So just and the countdown, I would say it's a little bit too extravagant on this part of the story. I was trying to figure out what slow the pace is down. I understand there are two storylines right now, right? One line is Wang Miao's a story. Basically, he's working with Da Shi to try to hack whichever is happening from the frontier of science. The other storyline is Yang Dong and Ye Wenjie, the mother-daughter. So basically, that show tried to fill up in with more Yang Dong's story, who she is, why she killed herself, and it just started to slowly introduce Ye Wenjie's story. I understand this is a big line because when Ye Wenjie's story just flowed up, so basically the whole show is already looking at the climax and should be ready to wrap up. So I guess they're trying to balance the two storylines, so they have to stretch some discussions to wait for that bigger moment of the whole show. So when you look at what the show does, there are more discussions on the shooter theory and the turkey theory. So basically, Da Shi is talked to different people to try to dig out more on those countdown things, and they even got time to expand the roles of the existing character in the book, and they even introduced a couple of new roles. I know the show is probably building up the story, try to tell story in a more thorough way with more conflicts, and try to fill all those blank parts that Liu Cixin left in that book. But as a book fan, I do think there's a little bit drag of tempo in those 3 episodes. I just hope those people who haven't read the novels before find it very helpful and enlightening to help them catch up with story and all those conspiracies behind things. Personally, this is a part that I don't like very much, but I kind of understand why the script writers made such choice. So let's say it's a choice thing for slower tempo. Which leads us to the third review point I want to cover today, the expansion of roles and the introduction of new characters of the show. They're not all bad. For example, I mentioned there are some good, very good expansion of role. In my last review, I think Xin Yufei's expansion makes sense. So she's representative of the other power. So if you add more story into her line, probably people could understand ETO and three-body culture more, and even probably even Ye Wenjie more. She could be the one connect the two storyline in later part of the show. So I think that's kind of a good expansion. I really like Wang Miao's expansion because in the book Wang Miao is just a guy who solved the puzzles so that Liu Cixin can tell his story. But in this adoption, basically, Wang Miao have very clear layer of emotions. His face fluctuate based on those unimaginable things he saw. He's basically emotionally fluctuating, and as I mentioned, he basically almost broke down, but Dashi brought him back. The whole acting makes sense, and actually help people better connect to Wang Miao as a character, as a leading role in this TV show and the book. So I like this part very much as well. There's some other part of role expansion that I noticed, but we need to see more to to know if they're good expansion or bad expansion. For example, that the Shari Shan guy, you probably don't know the name, but Shari Shan was the guy that was Ye Wenjie's student who worked at the observatory center and helped Wang Miao, monitor and capture those flickering of the universe radiation. In the original book, I hear criticisms that that guy basically appear filling some theory background and tell Wang Miao how horrible the flickering is, and then he just disappeared. No further story. People say, hey, this guy just observed the career changing event in his life, and nothing happened after that. That guy just disappeared from the whole story, and that makes no sense. I understand that. So now the show is expanding the role. Shao Shen will come back, definitely come back. Not only she was scared that very night when they watch the universe radiation together, but also he dug deep into the story. He reported to Ye Wenjie about the thing. He probably reported up, on this unusual observation. And then later on, he talked to Shi Chang's people who want to investigate more. And if you watched a later, the trailer of a later episode, he actually even appeared in the three body game as a partner, a fighting partner of Wang Miao to fight against the frontier of science altogether. That makes more sense, but we do need to see the expansion of his role, if that will help with the story or not. And there are some other expansions that I'm very uncertain right now. For example, starting from the beginning of episode 3, there's a journalist, or more like a self-media journalist. That's the term in early 2000s. In today's context, that could easily be, I don't know, a YouTuber or a investigation journalist. But anyway, it has a name. She is called Mu Xing. So obviously the game tried to introduce her in a very dramatic way. Definitely that girl is going to play some role in future. We don't know if this is a investigation journalist on our side, or is she on the other side? What's going to happen with the story? We don't know. We'll see. But generally speaking, I will be very alert when the show start to add new characters. I mean, this is a very established novel. People like certain part of the characters, and just don't care about the rest. But what's the point if you're creating new roles? It's almost like somebody who just dropped by at your party, right? That's somebody that you don't really know. So I'm still quite doubtful about that. The last new character I want to mention is called Xu Bingbing. So that girl is also introduced in a funny and a dramatic way, and she works under Shi Chang. At least the original book, Shi Chang did all the investigation himself. There's no subordinates. And a lot of times, because the original novel focused on the story of Wang Miao, so a lot of times when Wang Miao talked to Shi Chang somehow already get some information. So I suppose Shi Chang's investigation in the book was more like a hidden line behind Wang Miao's story. But now in the TV show, Obviously, Shichang have to go out to do the investigation with the subordinates. A lot of the investigations will be more visible to the show viewers. I'm not sure that is a good thing or not, but we will see if this new character play any beneficial role in the show. Oh, by the way, Xu Bingbing is not even the last one. There's this weird guy from the Frontier of Science. So basically, he's a retiree, a physician, a physics scientist who has this big house that he lent to Frontier of Science as a property and meeting places, more like a base of Frontier of Science. He says things that's just very weird, make very little sense to me. This creation of new rule is also a little bit weird. We'll see where this goes. But generally speaking, as a book fan, I would be very, very worried when the show started to include new characters that was not characters that were not in the original book. Okay, I suppose these are the third part of my review. But before we end this video, did you know? I know I keep on finding those details about the show. So it's a fun part that we add this did you know part to see if you noticed it, some details as I did. So I was kind of not happy that they tweaked the part how Ye Zhetai died. I thought they didn't shoot that part how Ye Zhetai died. He was beaten by the Red Guards, right? The Revolutionary Red Guards in the original book. But in the show, they actually showed how Ye Zhetai died, and he died a different way. So at the end of episode 6, this part when Ye Wenjie was crying in a very dark room at first, I thought it was weird that she looked up when she cried and burst into silent scream. I think that part is weird. But when I rewatched it, I realized he was watching at something horrible, devastating, that could very likely be his father's body. So very likely, Ye Zhetai hanged himself in the TV show. This is different from the original story, and as I mentioned, it's a pity that the show didn't get to shoot this part as what the book described it, probably because of censorship. But our poor Ye Wenjie still have a lot of setbacks to go through to turn her into who she was, and to turn her into that person, the person that make all those choices. Just hope Tencent can shoot the following parts better. Don't screw it up. But anyway, because of all those things I mentioned, I have a very mixed feeling on the 3 episodes. So I think as of today, as of end of episode 6, my personal score on the show decreased from 9 to 8. Slow pace is definitely a key reason, and the new characters, need to be observed how good or how bad they are. And I'm a little bit not happy about the cultural revolutionary part of what we saw so far. So I'm giving it a, but still, I love the show. I definitely will follow the show till the very last minute of it to see how good or how bad it will be. And thank you very much for watching my review today. Please leave your comments. Do you agree? Do you see something that I didn't? How do you like or hate the show so far? Like and share the link. And see you next time for the next 3 episodes. Thank you.